Hey, Lorcan,
Hey,
how you doing?
yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. First of all, I loved your last film, Vivarium. I absolutely love that movie,
Good.
and I liked Nocebo. I watched it this morning. It was like so surreal, like all the twists and turns with the characters, and I really enjoyed how this film came out overall.
Good, good. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, very different films, but yeah.
So my first question is, what inspired you to tackle this project on as a director?
Um, I started just with an interest. Me and the writer Garret Shanley had an interest in placebos and nocebos, and nocebos is the opposite of placebo. So it was really a kind of interest in that, and just being, digging into the research around shamanism, the effects of placebos and nocebos. And then as we kind of dug in further and further, we saw this connection between, pagan beliefs systems, which we had in Ireland pre-Christianity,
Mhm.
um, and how shamans were kind of an important part of society, and they were mostly female, and they had a very kind of, they were revered. We had these wise women who were healers, and with the arrival of Christianity and later colonized by the British, and then with the rise of consumer capitalism, that's kind of been pushed right back to almost non-existence. So we were looking at where, that this is still prevalent, and one of the countries that we kind of came across was the Philippines, where Cebu and Sequoia islands in the Visayas still have a strong culture around like folk healing and shamanism. So we basically just researched that, and then went there and met practitioners of Kulam, faith healers, witch doctors, tribal chiefs of the Ati and Bajau tribes, and just learned loads about their folklore and their folk healing techniques and the belief systems, and could see this kind of parallel between our own culture with they were colonized by the Spanish. Christianity arrived, and they had these Babylon, who were these powerful, strong women who were healers, and they kind of got pushed aside and demonized, and then capitalism arrived. But they're like in the Philippines is still, and the Southeast Asia in general,
Mhm.
is exploited by the West, in a kind of new neo-colonial way, where big brands can just hire companies there to do all the manufacturing, and kind of turn a blind eye to any kind of human
Yeah, the
issue.
sweatshops, basically.
Basically, yeah. So yeah, it was all of those things kind of connecting that made us interested in pursuing it as a project.
That's awesome, and I gotta say, the cast in this movie is amazing. Eva Green, enough can't be said about her and Mark Strong, but the one standout to me was Chai Fonacier. How did you discover her for the role of
Yeah,
Diana?
she's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I discovered her. She's quite popular in the Philippines. She's singer songwriter as well as an actor. But once we pitched this project at Macau in China at a co-production market, and brought on. We knew like we wanted to do this as a proper co-production between Ireland and the Philippines. So we brought on co-producers from Epic Media, and they'd worked with Chai before. So like once we got into casting, it's very specific. We're trying to find somebody from Cebu, that island, because a lot of the belief systems, but as well as the language, is Cebuano. So they'd worked with her before, suggested her. We saw, I don't know, we maybe saw like 10 or 15 people, but Chai just totally nailed it. She did this thing in her audition tape where she'd kind of say something that could be taken as a little bit threatening or a little bit off, but then disarm you with this big smile, and then go and say something else,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
get a big
She turned
smile
the
again.
charm
You're
on.
just
That's what
like,
it was.
you're put on the back foot all the time. You're not really sure how to take her. So yeah, she was brilliant. And then like, yeah, she was amazing in the film. I think she totally stands out.
Yeah, especially her chemistry with both Ava and Billy as the daughter. I mean, they did that chemistry. That's why I think she's the standout of this movie, because she's able to come across so naturally with both actors, especially with Ava when it comes to, as you mentioned, her being her might look like she said something sinister at 1 second and gives a smile.
Yeah.
And then the techniques, like, is she really helping her, or is she like pretending to help her and bring something stronger? We don't really know what her MO is, of course.
Yeah. That was part of the challenge with the film as well. We were trying to do this thing with the narrative where we do a placebo nocebo turnaround on your allegiances sort of halfway through the film. So it was tricky to kind of play with that balance, yeah. But yeah, Chai's dead. And I think the combination though of her and Ava together is what makes it really interesting too.
Exactly. I totally agree. So how long did shooting take, and what challenges did you face during production?
Well, we shot during the pandemic, so we had all of that shit to contend with. And we shot for like 5.5 weeks in Dublin for London, changing registration plates and all that kind of stuff. And then we shot in the Philippines for 6 or 7 days. But in order to do that, we had to go for nearly 2 months, I think, between 2 weeks quarantine on arrival, and
right.
We had to do all of our location scouting when we arrived, and even some of the casting. So yeah, it was tricky. I mean, it was all tricky. And then basically the pandemic made us have to spend a lot of, a good chunk of money on pandemic related stuff, like testing, blah, blah, blah. So that ended up taking time out of the shooting schedule, which meant shooting was super tough, really tight schedule. But, it was all a bit wild. It's all a bit wild. I remember when we were shooting, when Mark is like swats the canary and they hit pulls down, like that was, we shot that just after shooting a scene with a stunt guy going over the stairs, and so they built this big platform on the second floor, so it was really difficult to get up and down. So like the scene where we had to shoot this canary hitting the wall, the animal wrangler couldn't really get up, so like I was up there, so he just had to like throw me a dead canary that he had in his pocket, because he's like he has an aviary, and he has loads of birds there, and they breed canaries, and canaries die all the time apparently to natural causes, and he throws them in the freezer. So like he throw me up a canary, I had to catch it, get the camera position, mark it, throw the canary against the wall, and the DP would try and shoot it, Radek would try and get it hitting the ground. But there was all that kind of fun chaos of making a film in a very limited time frame.
Yeah, but you got through it, and the movie turned out to be really good. So
yeah, thanks.
I think it's totally worth it. So what's next for you after Nocebo that you can talk about?
I'm working on a project called Goliath, which is a dystopian fable set in the near future, and it's, broadly speaking, it's about creating monsters to start wars and steal natural resources.
Oh wow.
So it's cool. We're
awesome.
Got the script ready. It's me and Garret again, and that's what we're going for next.
Awesome. So Nocebo will be out in theaters this Friday, and then it's going on demand and digital on November 22nd. And those who love supernatural horror films with like a nice little twist to it, they're definitely going to enjoy this one, especially because Chai really did it on this one. I think it was a breakout for her, and hopefully she'll get more international films after this. I think she deserves it. And Lorcan, thank you again for taking the time to talk about the movie.
No worries. Thanks, man. Good to talk to you.
All right. Take care.
All right.